Just so everybody does know, we record our meetings, so there's a little camera up here. So if you don't want to say something that the whole world will have access to on YouTube, then just don't say it. The warning is there. Now we can begin. So tonight it's real simple. It's we're going to talk to the Water District Director Estremera. Thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot to us. I think we all have. If there are more people here, it would be even more special. But we have a lot of questions about the flooding. I think about the homeless on the Coyote Creek, especially right around this area by the ball fields.
Yes.
So a lot of people are going to have questions about that. So everyone in attendance, feel free to ask. That's why he's here. We'll get a little presentation there. Then we go to Andrea, and we're going to talk about the Neighborhood Safety Services Unit. And I think she has some really good ideas here, really good program. Going to go to me again, yay. Going to talk a little bit about the Neighborhoods Commission, some upcoming changes that the City Council wants to make to the Commission, and what we do, why we're here, what we can use from this leadership group, and the communication flow, how it goes up or down, depending on where you want it to go. So this is a leadership group. So the leadership group is the culmination of all neighborhood associations in District 7. It's not just the neighborhood associations, it's also important groups. It's groups like the Vietnamese American Roundtable, or it's other groups that aren't necessarily a neighborhood association, but they have a prominent place in our district. So we want to make sure that everybody's together. We want to make sure that everybody has access through a multicultural platform to communicate. That's why we're here. We're going to learn about events, discuss problems tonight, the homeless in the creek, right? The flooding. We're going to talk about solutions to those problems, what we can do to help. We're going to help each other and our associations get stronger. And how we're going to do that, we're going to make sure that people are informed. That's the most important thing. I've lived in District 7 since 2009. Information has not flowed. It hasn't been around. People don't know what's going on. People are in their own little bubble. And we're trying to break down those barriers so that everybody understands what's going on, whether they speak Vietnamese only, or Spanish only, or English only, or some other language. We need to figure out a way to make everyone inclusive. So that's that. Most importantly, we want to turn all 100,000 voices in District 7 into one strong voice. That one strong voice can achieve anything and accomplish anything. So that's the whole point of this neighborhood, is of this district leadership. So with that, SJPD was one of those 4 calls. They canceled. Director Estremera, the floor is yours.
Walk over here. What I'll do is pull up a chair so we're at eye level.
Yeah.
Because
what I'm going to do
like people feel comfortable to dialogue with me, and we can talk a little bit about any issues that you have. Let me just quickly give you a few minutes description of what we do, who we are. Basically, the Water District is a special district, which means that special districts are created by legislation to do a specific number of things, either 1 or 100, but they're specific. What we initially were created to do as a conservation district was basically to conserve water. We were created as a conservation district. There were 3 conservation districts in the county that were created at the turn of the last century. And then they were merged sometimes by the 1920s. And soon thereafter, all of those were merged, those 3 were merged with the flood department of the county. So in those days, the county used to do flood control. That's generally the way it is in all of the counties in California. This is the only district that not only does water supply, but we also do flood control. Now, we cover the whole county. There's 7 directors. We're elected by district. And that's basically what we do. The way we exist is we charge people for water on the water side. So we set water rates. We set water rates for wholesale water rates. We don't sell directly to the public. What we do is bring in half of the water, bring into the county half of the water that's used in the county, and protect the aquifer. And from that wholesale activity, then we sell to retailers all of us here have a retailer called San Jose Water, but there are other retailers. The biggest one is San Jose Water, and so what we do is on the water side, we sell the water to them at a wholesale level, and then they pipe directly to all the folks in San Jose. Secondly, we do flood control. And the way we do flood control is that we don't have like a separate funding mechanism. We don't get sales tax. We don't charge for doing flood control. So the only way that we get finance to do flood control projects is we get what they call a 2% of all the taxes collected increment, and that's it. After that, we have to rely on grants from the state government, California, or the federal government. And what we do is try to get those grants to improve the safety in each area and try to get rid of flooding. Since we've been around over 100 years doing that, we've done a lot of flood control projects. And one of the big problems that we have with flood control, besides funding, is two big challenges that we have as an agency. In order to do flood control, we need two things. We have engineers, so we kind of know how to build, but we need two things. One is funding, as I mentioned, and the second thing is we need permits for everything that we do. Now, interestingly, people kind of can get in the creeks and pull out shopping carts and clean it and so on. We can't get in the creeks without a permit, because whatever we do might affect the environment, might affect the critters that are living there, might affect the living areas in the environment. It will affect the environment. It could affect the environment negatively, and we do have live fish all over the county. So we can't, whatever we want to do, we can't do unless we have permits. And that means, like I said, if we want to just get in there and grab shopping carts, whatever cars that fell in there, we can't do it. And of course, we can only get in the creeks at certain times during the year. We can only get permits for being in the creek certain times a year. So those are kind of the challenges that we have. That's why we still have some flooding in the county. We still, of course, have flooding, as you know, in the areas that just flooded, the hot zones, we call them. We all know where they are. And including these on Coyote, also in Yagas Creek, right in downtown Morgan Hill. So there's still areas that we have worked on and continue to work on to make flood safe. And one of the problems that you have when in order to make flood safe and to do a project, in order to widen a channel, that's what we do. We widen channels in environmentally sensitive ways so that the water can flow through it, and if it does, then of course it leaves the area that doesn't flood. Well, of course, one of the problems is we have the Monterey Bay on one side and we have the San Francisco Bay on the other side of our county. Water flows on this side, north of Tennant Road. Water naturally flows to the San Francisco Bay. So if you drop a glass of water, you drop some water on this side of Tennant Road, if it were enough to flow, it would naturally flow that way. On the other side, south of Tennant Road, it will flow to Monterey Bay. So what happens is that water from Tennant North, flowing down Coyote Creek, will naturally flow as fast as it can towards the bay. That's one of the reasons why when we do flood control projects, we can't widen channels in the middle of the road, in the middle of the way. We have to work from the bay up, or we create more flooding. So what happens is, if you notice, two things didn't happen this year. Alviso didn't flood because we had a $75 million project in Alviso. And one of our directors, Nick Santos from Alviso, he lost his home 3 times. He's been flooded out 3 times. But not the last flood, because we did this project in Alviso. So, but you have to start from the bay. As we go this way, then we're able to continue. That's why we're working on Monterey, which is on this side of Alviso. That was from 237 north to the bay, where we did those improvements, and we're working from Monterey this way, so that we can continue to open the channels up without flooding the other side. Okay, so you can't create flooding. That's the whole idea. So yes.
Are you talking about flood control?
Yes, I'm giving a quick general overview, and then we'll do questions.
I could give you some help. If you need dirt, you know they're going to build a new big building over there, Bay 101, right?
Yes,
They've got 500,000 to 1 million yards of dirt to move to do a double.
Well, we don't usually need dirt. We pull dirt out.
Well, I mean, if you need it, instead of hauling to the garbage dump or to the quarry, you could go and have them dump it for a dike or make a big fill, and that's a lot of dirt for you guys to do it. Because my dad built part of the Anderson Dam, a lot of the dam.
Great, well, make sure, I have Rick in the back of staff and note some of the.
So if you need the material and you can get it cheap enough.
Okay.
My dad did most of his valley for 25, 30 years.
Okay, well, we'll call on you.
So
We'll be
if you
sure
can,
that-
I think this would be a good opportune time to say, let's just hold all questions till the end.
Yeah, I'm
Or
almost
whenever-
finished.
or
Let me.
whenever the director says there's
Yeah,
nice.
I just want you to know as much as I know, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
Do you guys want me to turn the lights on?
and so, yeah, sure, yeah, you know, we're okay with, yeah. And so, so as we come this way, the other challenge we have, the other place that didn't flood, was on the east side, because we just completed the lower Silver Creek, area from McKee Road to the lake. I grew up there on the east side. You know, when I was a kid in high school, it flooded every time, no area. We knew, everybody knew, because it always flooded. It wasn't maybe, always flooded. And so we finished that portion up to the creek, up to the lake, and so that's protected. There was no flooding there. So as we come this way, now the other challenge that we've had is that Coyote Creek, Guadalupe and Coyote Creek are considered navigable waters. That's because, you know, in ancient times, they were raging rivers, both of them, and, you know, you could come back and forth from one bay to the other and so on, and actually navigate through. Well, even though you can't now anyway, that falls in the federal government jurisdiction, and the Army Corps of Engineers is in charge of Coyote Creek and Guadalupe Creek. And of course, they're in charge of the permitting and any activity that happens there. So we can't do a flood control project without their permits, without their allowance. And if we want their funding, they have a certain formula that they use, because they have so many projects across the country, they cover the whole country, that for their priority, they have what they call a cost-benefit analysis that they do as to whether they can fund a specific project. So Congress gives them $100 million, generally a lot more than that, let's say $10 billion. With those $10 billion, they have to service the whole country for that year. And so they look at projects, and once they allow a project and approve it, then that project will take years. So every year they will fund, so they have 10 billion, they look at all the projects, they figure, well, we've got projects going, we need 7 billion of that 10 billion for the projects that are already going. There's only $3 billion left for new ones. That's kind of the way they do it every year. So they look at applications across the country and they say, well, our analysis shows that you only have people living there. And I gotta be honest with you, that's kind of the way it works. There's no big companies there. There's, whatever they think is value based on how much they are gonna invest, okay? They give that a ratio, and based on that ratio, or that grading, then they make commitments for funding, okay? Then they tell you, okay, we'll fund that project. Because they know if they fund that project, it's all the way to the end. And it may take many years. So they will say 10 million now, 20 million next year, 30 million the next year. And depending on how many years it takes, when they make a commitment, they know it's a multi-year commitment. It's so much money. So they've done the analysis, they approve it, and then every year, that's kind of the way it works. So that's why it's so difficult to get money from them. And so every year, we make applications for them of all these same hotspots. And we try our best to formulate what we can. Now, what we do, depending on some local money that we have, because the people here, all of you, have approved special taxes the last couple years. And what we've tried to do with that is, because we know that you have to convince the Corps, and because every project requires a study, an environmental report, design, and then construction. Construction, of course, being the overwhelming factor in cost, right? That if we can pay ourselves for design, for investigation, for planning or review, it's easier to sell the project to the feds. So that's what we've used our local money for, obviously, because it's a lot less. But we can leverage it a lot more. So if you investigate, you have a good story, and you could show all this to the Corps, then you're far ahead of the people who say, this is awful, we need help, but they can't show the real details. This is how many homes are affected, the fish, the environment. You can't give them as much data. So that's what we've tried to do. It puts us a lot further ahead of a lot of other communities in the country, because we've been smart enough to tax ourselves to at least pay for some of this. And lastly, when we go to Washington, D.C., and we go twice a year to talk to the Corps, the legislators, and everybody, they're very impressed when the community has taxed itself. We've done what we can do. We already send you our taxes, but even then we have special taxes because we really need to fix these areas. So we've taxed ourselves. We're not just asking for a handout. We already tax ourselves. We've already done what we can. Besides paying our taxes to you, we've also done what we could at home. And so this is how much we've done on this project, but this is how further we need to go. That's kind of the way that we operate our system. And then some of the money that we have, we use for maintenance. Again, the other thing about flooding, of course, is to maintain what you have. So what happens, of course, is, and you may have read some of this in the paper, about there's over 750 to 800 miles of creeks. The water district doesn't own the creeks. Okay? We only own maybe 200 miles of them. We either own them or control them or have some permit on them or are allowed to maintain those. So those are our responsibilities, those we maintain. We do not maintain private owners' creeks. Some folks do own those creeks. They own land that the creeks run through, and we as a district don't have the permission to get in there, and secondly, and some owners don't want us to, and secondly, we can't use public funds to improve private owners' lands. So those two reasons, we can't clean up anything we don't own. So those are basically the challenges that that we have, and that's what we've been doing until the latest floods came. And as you know, we've been working on the flood, on the other side of the flood. But every year we have 2 campaigns, public campaigns. We have a water campaign where we try and get people to understand how important it is to conserve water. We try to teach people to change their behaviors so that we can save as much water as possible. And then during the fall and the winter, we also have a big campaign on flood safety. And sometimes people criticize us because even during this time where we've had a drought, we still have run the flood campaign, because all droughts end with a bang. You never know when it's going to happen. The biggest problem with a drought is you know when it's here, but you don't know when it's going to end. And then it ends with a real bang. So you have to try and remind people to be flood safe. And so that's why we have a campaign. It looks silly. Why are you talking about floods in a drought? But that's what happens. It just happens. It doesn't, like this one. There's really no way to tell. You can do like the weatherman does, and we look and see, because we have our weather folks that do the same thing. Sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're right, and they do the best they can on estimating. But we know for sure that it's always drought, especially here. There'll be droughts and there'll be flooding, and the question is how we balance those out. So I think that's what we do. So I'm ready for questions. Specific questions?
Well, some of the private property could be condemned if you really want to stick it to it.
Well,
improve it.
well, but does the community want us to spend the small money we have to improve private property?
Well,
Which is something that we're not yet allowed.
Sit there, let them take care of that. Whatever happens then, it's on them. But protect the people themselves. We could throw a dike in, we could widen the channels, we could get rid of all those trees. You only need a few trees in the creek, just like Silver Creek, okay? I remember going fishing down there when I was a little kid. We used to go duck hunting. I bet here was population of 180,000 people. We own 2,000 acres right across the street here.
Couple 100,000.
We own 2,000 acres here. This was construction zone of our neighbor. My dad had a big construction company here. Leo F. Piazza and AJ Race, Bo Race, are cousins. We know all the details. My dad helped build the big dams. And he almost got killed in that big dam because Granite was in charge of that. So we have 2 big contractors. I know they're going to take the Bay 101 property. They got a double basement for double parking. They're going to move around a million yards. Like they said, they're going to go double deep for double parking. So that dirt's available unless you haven't built an overpass with it. You could save a lot of money if somebody just do some wheel and dealing sooner or later. You could use it to dikes. You can take out the channels all you want, because when I worked over in Santa Clara on the big channel a long time ago, in the flood control, when we put that concrete channel through there, all through Welch and all through there, we did all that work down there. My dad did all that rotor work a long time ago.
Well, as soon as we get the funding and as soon as they give us the permits, we're ready to do that.
You're a dirt mover, you know, on paper, you know a lot of the history right here.
Yeah.
I went to the old school down the street.
Can I ask a question? I know you're representing the company and you want to promote the company, but there's bids and that kind of thing that you have to go through. So advertising your company and your whereabouts and what you do is not really proper in this particular meeting, but what we're trying to do is figure out a few of the things other than just flooding. One of the questions I have though, you did mention, and to dovetail back on what you said, there are private property owners along the creeks. Is that true of Silver Creek?
That's true of almost all the creeks. Now Silver Creek, yeah, but I don't know where specifically.
Silver Creek got flood control and it was finished last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did any of the private owners of the land uphold that, or did they restrict you from doing your work?
No, generally, if we do a project in that area, we're gonna purchase all that property.
I'm just
can't.
asking a simple question. Is there a property owner that's private in Silver Creek, and if so, did they impede any of the flood control that you needed to?
I don't think so.
Okay, number 2 question,
Let me,
what about
wait
Coyote?
a minute. Like
Well-
you told him, this is not an inquisition,
No,
okay?
I know. I'm just
These
trying to
folks
figure
want-
out where the problems
Listen to what listen to my answer. I think you're entitled to a full answer, okay?
Okay.
So that's what I'm gonna give you, okay? What he's asking is, what do you do with owners that are in the middle of a project? Well, we have to buy them out. We can't do a project if somebody's in the middle, so we buy them out. That's right. But we don't force maintenance on people. We don't buy to maintain. That we don't do, if that's what your point is.
The point is what's impeding the flood control? For instance, on Coyote Creek, are there private landowners?
That's not what's impeding us. If we do a project there, we
Well, you
either.
brought it up, so I thought I'd ask.
No, what I brought up was maintaining the creeks. In other words, there are areas that we don't own, including where the city owns. Well, it's their responsibility to clean those areas, because if you don't clean the creek, obviously trees fall in, that creates flooding. So a lot of the flooding that happens is because the creeks get full and there are obstructions. So there's either obstructions from natural problems, where the trees fall down, the branches, whatever, or garbage or anything is in the way, that creates flooding. So if you don't maintain the creek, you can create flooding. We maintain our creeks, but we can't maintain private property, private owners'
So
creeks.
my question was, is there private property along the Coyote Creek that you're in control, that runs through the creek, that's part of your control? Is that impeding the cleanup or in any way, any kind of flood control that you might do?
Or is it just money?
So yeah, I could probably address a piece of that too as well. So I think what you're trying to address is how far up does our flood protection come from the bay up to this area? Is that what you're asking? Is
No,
what you're trying
I'm
to say?
asking if there's any private ownership impeding the progress of cleaning up the creek, in this case Coyote Creek. And if those landowners, for some reason or another can just say, hey, we don't want flood control on our property, therefore you can't do it.
That's not what's private ownership is not what's impeding our ability to finish Coyote Creek from Rock Springs area, from basically Tully, all the way down to 280. So basically, there is no funding to complete that.
So
There is
private
no,
ownership would not be a problem with
well,
Coyote Creek?
not as of yet. If we had money and funding for a project, then that's when you have to get into what Director Estremera talked about in terms of acquiring the land. We have situations, and I can't talk about it on Coyote because we don't have that situation, but we have situations in the Palo Alto area
Different
where people
areas.
said, I will not let you build a project on our land. We have the same thing in the Morgan Hill area. They say you cannot utilize, or you cannot build a project on our land. So then we get into the situation of where we have to acquire the land by
We have
eminent
to
domain
condemn
or
it.
other means. To also tie in on what I think I hear you saying is that, the maintenance of the creek between Tully down to 280 are the private owners or are the folks maintaining the land. Well, we don't have any ownership of any land between here and 280. It's mostly the
What
city.
about from Tully to Capitol or?
Tully to Capitol is mostly the city of San Jose, and additionally, you have a 100-year flood protection between Tully and Capitol. So if you were out there, and I heard her talking about what it looked like, and I was out there on the day of the flooding. I was in Rock Springs, and like I told you, I live in Mississippi, so I went to see what's happening. So you had basically the golf course, which was flooding, and everything between Tully and Capitol was pretty much protected because of the 100-year flood protection, because of the natural
Well, half of
courthouse.
the golf course, Los Lagos, was underwater.
That's what happens with public property and parks. If you look and see what occurs when the downtown Guadalupe was a flood, you'd have a park flood. What do you want to flood?
Yeah.
Do you want a
So-
park or do
so you
you want
wouldn't
a
wanna-
golf
you wouldn't
course? Let me
recommend
finish, let me
building
finish.
housing there, right?
You don't want to, correct. Well, that's a whole nother story. That's the second question.
Yeah.
So that's it. So that's a whole other question. Let me get to that one. But if you have a situation of where you have a park and you have a golf course, what do you want to flood? The park and the golf course or homes? So that's what it's utilized for, and that's why it's left that way. Now going to the second question that you have, could you allow for development of homes on Los Lagos? The answer is, we don't control that. That's the city. If you look at the city's codes, the city has what they call wet and dry flood protection. So the wet flood protection would be that you could build homes there, and then you would stack them up and put them on top of the garages like my homes are located. I'm on the back side of Los Lagos, so I'm protected by the zone, but I'm still stacked up.
Did it
So-
flood over there on that side?
No, it did not. Nothing. So basically, the area between Tully and Coyote, where it said it had a 100-year protection, if you went to the golf course and you went down on that side between Capitol and Tully, I saw it was like a raging river, and it didn't flood. But the golf course took it all. But that's what was expected when you have a flood of that proportion.
When the city, the developer goes in and buys a property, usually you have to get all the permits, say, okay, well, this is in flood control, we have to build it accordingly for protection, raise the ground or build a dike. And remember, a lot of big owners, we did a lot of work for all these guys over here, and they had, okay, the land is low to begin with, you're gonna build houses and roll down, we're gonna have to build a dike, or we're gonna have to rebuild that property at the ground level.
Yeah, that's what can happen, but I want to go back to the question of developing on Los Lagos, because that's not out of the question. Everybody that lives in this community knows what's going on. If you go and you develop Los Lagos, then you have impervious surface that you've designed there. So just imagine just like these tables, you've just designed it. What happens to all that water that rolls off? It rolls off and then runs down to where? Rock Springs area, and runs back into the Tully Creek, into that area.
Yeah.
Well, we don't control that. We don't control the development there. And then since we don't control, and since you have, and then going back to the maintenance question that you have, so you have a situation, and I don't know if any of y'all have taken the time to walk out and look on the creek on Rock Springs, go look at that thing. It has full-grown palm trees that are in the area. And the creek is chock full of just,
Who allowed the building to go
obstructions.
on in that area?
again, we don't.
We
The city did that.
So the city allowed developers to put in
The
housing?
city
Yeah.
permits
We
all
don't
that.
control
Mike,
development.
It permits all that. Yeah, they allow that. We don't permit.
You guys recommend against it?
Yes.
If they request our review, we review and yeah, we tell them to put it in there.
And if it's.
But they're not
between
required
50 feet
to.
of the creek.
So they can pretty much, the city can pretty much do whatever they want,
They have the police powers.
okay?
There's one issue that we talk about sometimes, is we have a water commission, which is composed of all of the cities have an appointment and the county has a supervisor. And sometimes they ask us, why don't you guys stop development? And we tell them, you're the guys that have police power, we don't have that power. They're the ones who do the permitting, they do the planning.
So we're not the land use agency.
Yeah, we
Well, if
can't.
you're-
So let me
if
jump
you're supposed
in
to
here
report
real
a flood
quick.
We don't have the
control-
power to
there's-
stop it.
I think Nietzsche over here, she raised her hand, she had a question
Yes.
earlier, so I'm
Well,
gonna.
it has to
Go
do
ahead.
with all this, I just wanted to say, Los Lagos did its job, that's our buffer zone.
That's it.
And whoever in the city did that, we heard when they were doing, I thought, what are you putting a golf course there for, no one's gonna use it. And they kept saying, it's flood control, don't worry, it's flood control, it's flood abatement, don't worry. And I see now why we wanna keep it a golf course, cause when the creek, and it's gonna
Yeah,
happen
'cause
now,
let
right?
that flood,
We
yeah.
have the Arctic rivers coming, we're gonna have more extreme weather, we're gonna have droughts, and this is the way it's been, cause I get frustrated with people who are not from California, who are not from this area, saying, oh my God, it's flooding, it's like, no, this happens. You have to get used to
You
it.
just have to
We get used
prepare
to the
for it.
droughts. We have to
Like you were
conserve.
saying, like Watson Park always floods, but
That's
It-
what's-
it's a park and it's just flat land and
it's gonna-
everybody knows, it's flooding, so you stay away from it.
It's gonna dry.
But it isn't the community that floods.
So if I was a developer and I was rich and I had a lot of money and I wanted to put it in the pocket of the mayor or the council member.
No, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is give us the land.
Uh-huh.
All you have to do is put half of the land for that purpose. And that's how you can help yourself. That's what they do. Like you were saying, for development, if you want to develop an area, they're gonna tell you, well, that's a flood zone. So then you're gonna go back to your engineers and say, what can I do? How can I build there so that I don't create a flood or so I don't flood other areas? And then you come up with a plan. That may be dedicating half of your land so that it will soak up the water and then your development won't, and secondly, it won't flood anybody else.
Right.
If you plan it, that's fine, like you were saying. If everybody knows that's gonna flood. And nobody's there. And, you know, the whole agreement is, that's what's permitted, so that it protects both the new part of the neighborhood and the old part of the neighborhood. Then, like you said, well, everybody expects Watson Park, the golf course, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Then it's okay, because it's planned that way.
So if they fill in the golf course and they pile houses on top of that, then it floods somewhere else and pushes the water elsewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's why you have to make sure you permit it right. Like in Alviso, if you notice, when they finally allowed new housing to go up there, they're on stilts, man. I don't think the first floor is like, it's like at the roof.
Yeah, they were 8 foot underwater.
Yeah, you gotta go up these stairs to get
Yeah,
to
I
the
believe
first floor.
Recom and a lot of industrial,
So you could build it that way.
They're on raised beds.
Yeah, you could plan it that way. And then fine, nobody gets flooded, and everybody knows that that's the way it is. And you're gonna have a raging river once or twice a year.
So I've got a question now on the flow rates. There were calculated flow rates by the water district that said it could
Yes.
handle X amount CFM, right?
Yes.
CFS, whatever the unit was. Around Rock Springs, in the two areas that flooded, it ended up being a half of that measure or a third of that measure. That's what was reported in the San Jose City Council meeting.
Well, here's the
last
thing.
week.
That's what the city reported.
Yeah, that's what I, here's
So
the
is
thing.
that's my question. Is that right? Or what happened there?
So here's what happened. So our hydrologists looked at what the potential flood could, so they looked at the 1997 flows. They did a calculation of what the 1997 flows were at the time and what the approximate flow rate could be in that area when the water comes through. There was a chart that was put out, and the chart independently was not what occurred. So the chart independently was put out when the city said, well, can you give us estimates of what do you believe these areas could potentially overflow at? So out of the 21 different areas, the 3 areas that the city is always focused on was the Rock Springs, the William Street, and the Nagley Park area, which did indeed flood. We had, and including in the city's plans, we said when 4,000 CFS comes over the dam area, then you need to basically put out an alert. That's why you see the emails from our staff to the city saying, are you planning a communication? The way that I describe it is when the water is in the creeks, it is our responsibility. When it's coming out of it, when it's going to be coming out of the creeks, it's the city's responsibility. So if the city was waiting until what they believed was 7,400 CFS or whatever the number was, when we told them that 6,000 CFS would be coming in the next 3 to 4 hours. Now you have to understand the difference between 6,000 and 7,000 CFS is 8 inches in the creek. That's how much it is. At what point do you start to warn people when our staff is saying, okay, this is what's occurring? So the city statements is we were waiting on the water district's numbers. Well, the way I describe it too is this isn't a pipeline. This isn't, if you have a pipe and you put water in a pipe, I can tell you can measure exactly how much water comes out of the pipe. I can walk you down to the creek, but I don't need to. Y'all live here, and you see the same thing I do. Do you think the conditions of the creek are the same they were in '97 or they were after the drought? So we have situations where there are trees in the creek. Yes. They know this, including they knew the fact that a tree had fallen down in the Williams Park area of the creek and was down for 6 to 7 months. When you call us and tell us to get a tree out of the tree out of the creek, we do it within 2 to 3 weeks. They took 6 to 7 months. We haven't been able to do an evaluation of what the down trees, the chopped up channel does. And so what we told them is make sure that you have people on the ground to check. On Monday afternoon, I personally, since I live here, I went down to Rock Springs and checked. It was 1 foot before top of bank on Monday. They said they had, if you look at the communications and Mercury News and others have printed it, they said they had staff on the ground, public works staff observing and would be observing. Well, again, this is, if it's a pipeline and you lose the pressure of the pipeline, you know that you've lost it. The only way that you know flooding is going to happen in the channel is if you have eyes on the creek. And when you know that the water is coming down at that rate, at that height, at that level, what do? You send out public works staff to observe the creek. And that's what happened. So it's not the 7,400. And even if it was the 7,400, then the question I would say is, what trigger were you waiting for?
That pipe's too small.
Well, I'm saying, okay, you know this. Walk down there. When you have the opportunity, if you haven't walked through that Rock Springs, You go and walk down there, okay, and you go see what's it. There's fully grown palm trees, 3 or 4 right behind the playground in Rock Springs. So if you know that there could, 1, be obstructions because of the drought that have fallen into the creeks. 2, that the fact that the drought has made the landscape work differently. 3, you may have erosion on the creeks. This is not a pipeline. This is not a built flood protection channel. This is a natural flood channel that basically they looked to our hydrologists and we said, here's all the things that we believe may happen. However, you need to be out there and on the ground. So we didn't say, oh, don't worry about this, until it says 7,300 CFS, don't run out there and go check the creek. That would be irresponsible. So when you see the email at 2:47 a.m. coming from actually one of my staff to their staff that says, hey, we're going home for a few hours of sleep, we'll be back at 5 a.m. And my staff says, what communications are you planning to the community? And then there's a second time we said, what communications are you planning to the community? This is real. What communications are you planning at that time? When they choose, we don't say raise the red flag, alert, go evacuate. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is saying, here's what's happening, here's what's coming, here's what we predict. Do you have your people on the ground? We don't employ the police, we don't employ the fire, we don't employ public works. They are employed to be there on the ground to talk to that community and to understand and to report back. And the question I ask is, where was anybody at?
That's right.
Well, Anderson Dam was just for farmers to begin with.
If
Well,
you check
And
Twitter,
That's what it
way
was
too
built.
small. My dad helped build that dam.
Anderson is not the issue. The rain was the issue. Well, when Anderson got full and started spilling.
Isn't it a little late at 2:47 a.m. when people are being rescued out of the creek at 9 a.m.?
Okay, 2:47 a.m. we have a gauge over at Edenvale. Edenvale is way up in, oh boy, I don't know the Edenvale gauge. Edenvale is deep in South San Jose. We know that the water flow at the time is gonna take between 4 to 6 hours depending on the rate of flow to get there. So no, it's not too late because you know you have 4 to 6 hours to get out there and to evacuate the community. And what you do is when you see that in Edenvale gauge was expected to spike between 6 and 7,000. So when you see the Edenvale, so you don't want to wait till it's in Rock Springs and say, hey, it's spiking at 6,000. That means you got minutes to get out. When Edenvale is spiking, that's when you say we've got an issue. Let's get into the community. So at 2:47, when we see the initial spike at our Edenvale gauge, that's when the communication comes out. Are you planning any communications to the fact that you have 6,000 to 7,000? It was also reported people saying, well, is this a major or minor difference? My staff said minor difference. What the minor difference was is that we knew that it was spiking at that high, but it was spiking faster than what we thought. We said the rate of flow is coming faster than what we thought. So the water's moving quicker. Is that because of drought? We don't know why. It's like predicting the weather. You know, it's gonna go this way, that way, but water's gonna flow in a natural creek. But we knew it was flowing. It left the, I think it's called the Madrone gauge over by the Morgan Hill, but between the Madrone gauge and the Edenvale gauge.
Well, flooded 101.
Well, that was another issue.
That was a dumb thing to do.
But I'm saying that
Separated.
you knew that dam was cresting. You got, Army Corps of Engineers.
Well, let him finish.
Yeah, but I'm saying, that's what
What is the timing between Madrone and Edenvale?
I don't know what the timing is, but
Is it an hour or 2 hours?
whatever the timing was, we saw it was significantly faster than what it had normally
So
been and what was predicted.
the flow
And-
rate.
Correct, so the flow rate had just picked up and immensely faster. So if you see the communications, what the reports are, is that it's moving faster than what we thought. And that's all we knew. So it's, if you looked at the flows before, what was coming between Madrone and, so you see the average flows, and all of a sudden, it's coming over and the flow rate is spiking. And that's all we can predict, and we know that we will be trouble downstream.
And did you let the city know, I'm sure you did, that it's cresting, the dam?
Yes.
And like, what did you go to sleep? The communication broke down?
I can only speak for what we did.
No, I know, but I'm saying communication broke down. We're talking to the mayor and,
Somebody blaming somebody
it's
else.
sand.
yeah.
And then they never dredged out the, Silver Creek,
Well, and I do want to address that, and I'll get to that, but in terms of the flow rate, what occurred, yes, we did communicate that. People are saying, well, should you been ringing bells? Well, what we do is we tell you what we believe is going on. The city and the emergency operations plan is supposed to address, and what do they do? We don't say to evacuate, we don't call the fire department. We say, here's what's going on, now you need to make a decision of what you need to do. The email is public, you'll see it, the city says we're going home until 5 a.m. I don't know I don't know what they were thinking. I wasn't in their EOC for their decision making.
Right.
They have an engineer in our EOC, we have an engineer in their EOC. Their engineer is communicating what our people are saying back to their EOC. And our people are saying this flow rate is coming higher and faster than what expected.
Right.
It's 6 to 7,000 CFS. You don't wait. There's a point of where you make a decision on, okay, voluntary evacuation. Regardless if it was evacuated, that community would flood. There was nothing, at that point, the flood was coming and what level of flooding would have been. Obviously, it was the worst flooding, that we've seen in a very long time in that area. But that's what happened. Going to the second part of what you said about the cleaning out of the channel. The city owns pretty much all of the channel between Tully all the way down to past Rock Springs, past Bevanbrook, past the Kelly Park area.
So
That's
the
all-
city owns it.
Yeah, the city owns it. But here's what the city can't do. The city can't just go out there and even if they could get permits from the regulatory agency and clean the channel, even, which they cannot get them, but if they did that, then what would happen with the water going through that channel? It would flood the neighbor, and then they would be responsible for basically inducing flooding on the property of another.
What, excuse me, what happens if they would have dredged it like they should have?
Well, but no, see, but you can't say that they should have. It's just like if you live on a creek and you live up to the creek, you're responsible for half the creek, for the maintenance to the middle portion of the creek. Your neighbor on the other side is responsible for that. If you choose and you and your neighbor say, hey, we don't like the way this creek looks, and you clean out your entire portion of the creek, and then as a result of you cleaning it out, the water comes into your creek area, hits your neighbors that didn't clean their creek area, and then it all gushes out onto your neighbor's property, you will be held liable because you basically induce flooding on your neighbor's property. When we build a flood protection project, as Director Estremera alluded to, we build it from the bay all the way up. And the reason why you do that is because that's the way the water travels outwards. So I can't sit here and say the city was responsible for cleaning the channels and the city didn't have permits to clean in those channels. We don't have, it's not our area to clean.
But
if we had built
okay.
a project, then it'd be our
But
responsibility.
you're talking about permits, I mean, this is not a Saturday afternoon event. This is a major
Absolutely.
emergency. And I can hear what you're saying, but the city, there's no question about it. They should have dredged. Coyote Creek.
I'm not here to defend the city,
I
but
know.
I can tell you right now, the city would not have been able to dredge from Tully all the way down to 280. Somebody would be arrested. If you
Got environmental engineering.
So you're
gotta
saying you
have
have to have
permits.
permits, you gotta have
Yes.
permits?
You've gotta have
To get the homeless out of the creek?
You've gotta have the
Yes,
you have to
you
have
gotta have
well,
permits.
the homeless, the creek are a different issue. But you have to have environmental permits. You just can't go in and remove the trees. You have to make sure that you are doing things in
That
a
you
fashion.
endanger the fish and so forth?
It's called Waters of the United States. You
Yeah,
cannot,
we got the
basically,
fish.
when you touch something that affects the riparian habitat, the waters of the US is basically you have the Corps of Engineers, Regional Water Quality Control Board, the US Fish and
But
Wildlife.
they had 5 years, cause we were 5 years in drought.
Yeah, but then you
I
have.
understand you also have US Coast Guard.
Well, BC, I don't know if the Coast Guard, they.
Well,
they
somebody
would-
said it used to be a transportation route, and then I think US Coast Guard still has jurisdiction, right? for-
I don't know.
I don't know, I've never seen that.
Definitely
But I can tell
Bay,
you,
but-
it's not navigable now. Even when the flows were high, I was down there, I was one of the first folks down there
Yeah.
when I saw the flooding was
Well,
occurring.
this
It's
is
not
something-
navigable.
Only
this is something
seasonally.
I read, but.
It could be true, I don't know the answer to that.
Let me ask you, why was the dam so full? If it was only supposed to be up to 68% for seismic safety?
Oh, it was the
You
rain.
had a bigger pipe that come off that.
No, well, that's why I said it was raining, man. It was the rain.
No, but they had time
It
to
went
start
over.
letting some of the water go on
No, you
gradually.
don't-
No,
well,
no, they
Not
didn't.
all of a sudden.
Oh,
No, they
here's
didn't. No, they
one
didn't.
thing he's correct about. Those dams were built to conserve water, not to
Right.
get rid of it.
That's right.
Therefore, the pipe that is in there is this small. When we let the water out of there, there's no reason to let the water out. The only reason you do is to distribute the water, not to get rid of it.
Right.
But there's an overflow. So once it overflows, we're not letting water out. Once it fills up, it starts overflowing.
It does.
And that's what that was.
Yeah, now it's
So
starting to rebuild.
it was 65% is where we're supposed to maintain it. So we let the water out. We were letting the water out in January with that little pipe to keep it down to 65.
Yesterday, do you
That's how much water fell.
You want me to talk about the dates and where we were on
Now,
that?
let me also point out, because we're city folks, me especially, that rain isn't the only thing that's captured by the dams, okay? They're built in a specific place where they retain all of the water that falls on the mountains. So if you stand here and you get rained on, those things are not only collecting what's raining on them, but all the water that's coming down from the mountains, draining in. So while it may go this fast here, it's going this fast up there. So you know, so it's a different velocity of the water that's coming in.
I want to comment on this, because I have not heard this talked about.
Well, but I
We were
don't-
getting slammed with atmospheric rivers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For like weeks, and they predicted, I found like 3 different sites, and I think it was as early as the 16th, that they were predicting that our area would receive 6 to 12 inches of rain under 48 hours.
Yeah.
At worst, a foot of rain in under 36
And
hours.
remember, every time
That's
that
a
you
lot of
watch
rain.
on TV and they say 1, 10, 15 inches, whatever,
Yeah.
all of a sudden when they say Santa Cruz, they'll say, and the mountains
Yeah.
are gonna get twice as much.
Mhm.
So in those, in not just Anderson, but
Oh, yeah.
everywhere that we have, you know, a facility like that, it's under all these mountains on purpose, so it can collect all the fall. So when all the water comes down, as much as it does down here, it's doubled in the mountains, and then those facilities, you know, those dams, collect all that water that comes down.
Plus the
So
sediment.
that thing is going up like this, when it's just going over here and down here.
So are you saying that in mid-January, the floodgates were wide open just to drain it?
Yeah,
They were wide open from January?
yeah, but our pipe
Yeah.
there,
Can I give you exact details?
Sure.
So on January 9th, is when we opened up our pipe, which is a maximum of 450
Really
CFS.
small.
So it looks like it was flowing at about 425 CFS. You have to understand, that is nothing. That is barely anything. On January 9th, when we opened the pipe, our dam was 48% full. That's basically 20% less than what we're supposed to be carrying. And that was because of the anticipated
Anticipated
storms
rain.
and us trying to look at what was going to occur. It was fully open, never had been closed until 24 hours. It might have been the Saturday before the flooding event. And that was, actually, excuse me, it was Sunday or Monday before the flooding event. What happens is when 2,000 CFS comes over the top of the dam. So you have to understand, in between January 9th and February 20th, the dam filled up in less than a month. That has never occurred. We've never seen that.
They've had a few where we had over 30 inches of rain one year, 30 and a quarter.
Well-
And we didn't have that problem then for flood.
We got some
Only
historians
time-
that have
only
seen
down
it.
Guadalupe. I remember that, 'cause Pepper.
How much timing would you have to get, I mean, from the top of the dam to your house, or my house, which is local?
So at the top of the dam, so I look at Madrone.
Let's say the dam failed due to its being,
Oh,
a
that's
seismic event.
oh,
How
that's a
much time
different
would we
story
have?
though.
That's another issue.
Well, you gotta
So-
look at Jackson.
water's gonna come.
Jackson also okay, because you got the water hole in that
It's
hill.
not just gonna come on the
It's gonna
spillway, the
come
whole
down.
thing is coming.
Yeah, no.
Well, it might be a partial failure, but how much time would we have
Like an
from
hour?
there to here?
I've never looked at
I
the
don't know, but
estimates
it's-
of time. So in the creek.
Everybody will
when the
flood,
creek
not
is
just
flowing
here.
From Madrone to.
Everything will flood,
my-
from Morgan
to
Hill.
Rock Springs, our area.
You
It's
gotta remember
about
Jackson Oak,
6
the water's
hours.
flowing in the mountain, it's
Depends on
running
the
with
condition
earthquake.
of
No,
the
that's
channel.
why I say,
gonna
yeah.
cave.
So the channel could
Yeah,
hold,
it'll
hold
come.
it back for 6 hours, but other than that, it goes over
In the
that.
channel,
It's not
So
controlled like
if you were to see a uncontrolled
My dad.
collapse of
we
the
did a lot of
dam,
work
it's
here.
bad. It's
We
bad.
did a
So
lot
I've
of
heard
road.
some stories, you know, in City Hall, people were talking about being in the water and having rashes on their bodies, or
Mhm.
having to go to the ER. They talk about the water being polluted. What's in that water that makes it polluted?
Everything that's in the street, everything that it touched,
Few bodies.
that's the problem, you know.
So have there
yeah.
been any health inspectors or anybody out to test the water and test the
We should
cement
go
that it
projects.
takes?
Once the water is out of the creeks, it's the responsibility of other agencies.
Yeah.
And when it's in the creeks, it's our responsibility. There was questions that, I was the one that testified at the city hall for I was at the 6.5 hours. I couldn't clearly tell if there was any health inspectors that
Yeah.
had done anything. I've seen locally on the next door pages here was talking about people that were around the waters that got sick. On Monday and Tuesday, I was out around the waters. On Wednesday, I was sick as a dog. I could just talk about what happened to me. I I was out there with pictures to figure out what was going on, reporting back to our FIT teams, what was the fitness flood information teams, what exactly was going on. So that water didn't look good. The water looked nasty. They were hosing the people out that were coming out of there.
It just picks up everything it touches.
Think about it,
Everything.
the water, when it went in those homes, it was high enough, it was in people's toilets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oil,
It's
toilet,
all the time.
everything.
Let's be real here.
The stuff in the car.
Well, the day of the flood, I
all the-
rode my bike down as far as I could on the trail, and I went through some of that water, and,
Yeah,
That was nasty.
and then
It's nasty.
Hazard,
I
yeah.
got over,
Hazardous,
diarrhea, it hit me
everything.
pretty bad for 2 days.
I'm gonna tell you, I've
Everything
seen
you
it on
can
the next
think
door.
of.
I live out here. I saw stuff in the next door. I don't know if you talked to me, but I was sick as a dog. I had a fever. The same things people were reporting. I didn't go in the water because people were talking about how filthy it was. But I've heard people report it. I don't have any reason to believe that they're not lying. But it's rolling over gas. It's rolling over chemicals. It's rolling
Yeah,
over
it's
toilets. It's
Bodies,
rolling
animals, anything.
animals. You don't know what.
Whatever's in everybody's garage.
People that have rashes, I believe them. I believe it was, and I don't know if the health department tested the
I think
water.
that's where the homeless guy was grabbing his pants.
Well, that was the next question, the follow-up to that, is especially around here by the ball fields.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of homeless living in our creeks. And so the big question is, how do we go down there, what can the city do, or the water district, or anybody, the county for that matter, the state, the federal government, get in there and clean up these areas? Because there are feces, there's dead bodies that have been found down there by residents of our community, there's animals, there's all sorts of nasty things, drugs, needles,
Oh, yeah.
waste.
Oh, yeah.
So what can the water district do to help us clean this area? Or can there be a joint project between the city, water district, federal government, get in there and clean it, because it needs to be cleaned?
This could happen every year with this climate warming.
Well, that's true. As I mentioned, it can happen. We could have another drought for a year or two, and then it's just back and forth. True.
Down to get sediment out to get the water capacity.
Yeah, it's just bad. But we always always clean out the creeks because there's sediment, and so we clean them out. But we have to have permits for that. We have a special permit just to do that, only specific periods of time. As far as the homeless issues are another problem that we've worked on. We've done more financing and support because the city, they're basically police powers. We have very minimal powers. We can't remove people from their homes. We don't have the power to remove them, so we can't evacuate. We don't have the power to protect their belongings. So we don't have that power. We have to depend on the police. Same thing with the homeless. We can't remove people physically. We're not cops,
Yeah.
and so the police. So basically, the city has to take the lead with that.
Because we get back and, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, but
We get back and forth where the police say they can't go down in the area because the water district owns it. We're here, and I think for the first time, the water district doesn't own this area
Yeah.
from Tully down to Capitol. That's the city. that
well,
owns it,
where
right?
the areas that we own are areas where we have paid for rangers to patrol and to clean it, and then we've had a lot, as you know, especially right here in this area, we've had a lot of volunteers coming in to clean up.
That's us.
We do that right by coordinating,
Yeah.
with both with the city
At a certain
and
point,
then
you
supporting
become
volunteers.
a housemaid for the people that keep polluting the creek, and you keep cleaning up, weekend after weekend, it changes.
No,
You clean up one weekend, and the next weekend you got more.
it's a serious problem, and we've gotten better at it. We've got the county's been involved so they could try and get people permanent housing, get them out of there, because solving the problem is what's going to make the difference. Because you're right, they'll move. You clean here, you push them, they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You clean, they'll come back. So we're trying our best to permanently assist those people so that they got a job, they got a
How
home
would
to
you-
get out of there.
Can you patrol the creek? Can you secure it somehow?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. We have paid for, basically the city's people. They have city rangers, so instead of cops,
Yeah.
we're paying for their rangers.
Well, you do.
Yeah, we,
On our property.
on our property.
Yeah, on your-
So if you,
So
if
which
maybe
way-
I'll send out to Jonathan the maps of this area. So Jonathan, if you, actually, if you email me, just email it to Rachel, and we'll send you maps.
That'd be great.
And you will see
Yeah.
the maps and the ownership of
So
all
we
the
pay for
areas,
those rangers.
all
See, that would be
the
good.
way down Coyote Creek, and once you see it, you'll have a better understanding of who has ownership.
Cause I like to know who owns, behind Denny's all the way down to Tully.
Capital to tell it.
You know,
You're saying the
capital
city
to-
owns that.
Capital to Tully is most of the city.
Mostly the
City?
city.
Because I was gonna ask you exactly.
Mostly the city.
But you
In
guys,
fact, I just sent it to Lou at,
What you're saying is,
Yeah,
it's the
Luann,
mayor and
you're-
our
you're
council.
over at
that's
the,
responsible for
Yeah,
this.
Luann?
Yeah,
See,
well,
I
that's,
like to have that-
they own the property. You know, that's what, one thing that they
they
said,
own the creek land underneath the water?
they own, yeah, yeah, people can own the creek, they own the whole,
Not
Cause
just the
I'm ready to
floodplain,
knock on their
but the
door,
channel.
they
yeah,
know real
yeah,
well.
people could own the creek.
Well, what happens-
Private people own creeks.
is when the trees
Yeah,
fall.
the city
Yeah, you own
property-
land, you own the
That's
creek and
how-
the land.
There was
The
trees
city
that
is a
are falling
private
all
owner,
down over
city
on
private
Roxbury
owner.
and
Well,
on the
they are public
Coyote
owners.
Creek area.
Yeah.
But they're not
Falling down
us, you
full
know.
of-
So-
They basically.
So-
It's in the creek.
So they're supposed to maintain their own.
I'll send you some.
Take care, thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.
All
Thank
the
you.
farmers and everybody, we have to do something.
Yeah, they're private
We
owners.
do have one other presentation, if you want.
What?
We have one other presentation, if you want to
Well,
stay.
you do, now I gotta get going.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, no problem.
I just wanna let you guys know, I saw an article from the Mercury News, I don't know if it's getting traction or not. The city, all the other counties have this emergency alert when you call your cell phone or call your
Yes.
house.
Alert SCC.
And we don't have that.
Yeah, the
We haven't
county,
implemented that yet, so that's another reason why the alert should go out, even if they
yeah,
have.
the county hasn't activated that.
There are certain tools that, for whatever reason, we just haven't implemented or
Yeah.
not using. So
There-
even if
there's
they
an alert-
said
There's an alert
evacuate,
app, but it doesn't work.
yeah.
Right, you're talking about the same thing.
It's
a
called
county.
Clara County CCR or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a county,
I tried it, I never got alerted for
Yes,
nothing, and to
exactly.
this day.
The only way I found out, and I have
It's
pictures.
the county alert,
I saw
yeah.
the Coyote Creek hitting the bottom of the bridge. That's the only way I found out.
yeah, it's the county alert, but,
It's the.
I found out by
neighbors.
walking out of my house and over here to the creek. I could see that it was 6 inches below the roadway, or a foot below the roadway. It was.
yeah, they should have done the, you know,
And
Amber
the report
Alert.
said it's gonna still
We-
rise.
I saw photographs on
I
Twitter
live right
before
here.
5:30. Citizens
I
reporting
didn't
that the
get
creek
alert.
was
My wife
flooding.
didn't get alert.
Before 5:30.
Oh,
and
yeah,
The
see,
city said
that-
at 10:30. That's 5 hours.
That would have been like the Amber Alert, you know.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
But the citizens on Twitter are taking photographs at 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning saying, wow, look, the creek's like, 2 inches from the roadway.
Yeah.
And the city waited until 10 o'clock, so I
I
look at that and the citizens knew.
He has a
So,
TV,
So, Paul, do you have any questions for the director?
oh, general.
I would just ask one question. In case of an emergency, you monitoring the damages of coming close?
Yes.
What is the sequence of steps that you guys go through? You have a possibility of an overflow. If you can walk us through?
Yeah, you just explained that before.
So we have an emergency action plan of where we alert the city, depending on the rate of flow. And the emergency action plan, I believe it's 3,000 CFS. We're supposed to give the city alert. We alerted the city at 2,500 CFS, and we briefed their emergency operations center. So we were briefing them as the flow was increasing. When we turned off our outlet at the base of the dam, which was putting out 450 CFS, and we knew that the flows were at 2,000 CFS, we alerted the city that we turned it off so that it would not induce flooding with the flows that were coming over the dam. When the Madrone station pinged at a certain level, we alerted the city. When Edenville, at 2:47 a.m., that's the last email that went out, pretty much. At 2:47 a.m., we alerted the city that we were seeing flows at the Edenville station between 6,000 and 7,000 CFS, and that and basically, regardless, they knew there was going to be flooding in certain areas, and we asked them if they were going to be doing specific communication to the Rock Springs area. 'Cause
Alert Santa Clara County was not notified.
they were on the same phone calls, don't forget. So here's the thing, this is the way I described it, if you were paying attention to the hearing on the 6.5 hours of the hearing. So, the county OES, the county OES is the umbrella. They have the city, they have National Weather Service, they have the Water District, and a few other parties that are all part of the county OES. The county OES, based on the information that we provided them, evacuated all of the all of basically the downstream areas where they knew that it could potentially flood. They evacuated everyone on Sunday based on our information. Happy Hollow Zoo, which is under the city, evacuated the animals on Monday based on the same phone calls.
About what time?
Happy Hollow, actually.
Yeah, they brought them all up to higher ground.
So they knew they were protecting the animals before the people?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, they moved it
I'm
across the
telling you
street.
facts.
Harold's Dam.
that's what they did.
Area
That's crazy.
was-
I don't know.
Didn't they just
Oh, yeah.
fire the city's emergency services manager?
No, they,
No, he quit.
Oh, he quit,
no, he
okay.
quit about
Brought
six,
it.
he quit about 6 months
I don't
ago.
have
Okay.
it. So,
But they didn't have one.
so Happy
They
Hollow.
just hired one, but after.
Happy Hollow Zoo, based on the same predictions that we were providing, which is the Kelly Park area. I don't need to tell y'all know in this neighborhood where it is. Evacuated the animals to higher ground because they knew it was going to flood. I don't know what happened in Rock Springs. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know what
in
these
Street.
guys-
I'm just giving you the facts of what occurred.
So a day before,
Yes,
they were evacuating.
they were on the phone calls. If you read the Mercury News Report is the most accurate report in terms of what occurred. It's safe.
That's special
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, because I had heard that the water district gave notice 1 or 2 days in advance saying, hey, you guys may think about evacuating.
That's
And-
why the evacuation centers were set up. We don't tell them when to evacuate. We just said, here's the information. We are a public works organization. We're gonna tell you what, actually, here it is. We're gonna tell you what the flow is, and what it can mean. Happy Hollow sent out a quick update to let you know that the animals are all safe. None of the animals had to be rescued from the flood. Preparation began on Sunday before floodwaters rose to move the animals out of the lower zoo and into the higher elevation of the zoo, as precautionary notes.
Yet less than half a mile from there were 28 horses
Exactly.
in water for.
No, it's not even less than a half a mile. It's probably,
Yeah.
if you think of where, well, actually,
Maybe
it's not a half a
1,000 feet, I
mile.
don't know.
It's
Yeah,
not a half a
it's
mile.
close.
That's where the horses were stranded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wound up coming over here to the San Jose Mounted Patrol's stables.
That's
but
great.
Right.
You know,
They were still in that water for 3 or 4 days.
So the question is.
Some
is
people
I
weren't
have-
talking to
We
too.
were providing the information. I'm not sure that there was a good recognition of what the trigger was for the city. We don't tell them what the trigger is. We don't call for evacuation. So if the question is, what was the trigger for you to evacuate? If your house is, if you see a
Yeah.
fire coming, do you wait till the house is, your back, the back of your house is burning before you say evacuate? Or do you say it's a quarter mile from us, you may want to evacuate? I don't know what the trigger is. We don't do that. Our job is to say, here's what the rate of floods are you going to communicate? And so that's what we're asking. We don't ring the alarm bells.
Was there anybody notifying the individual homeless people that were in the creek?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because that would take somebody on foot.
That would be the city,
Yeah,
and that would be
police.
the emergency providers and the first responders. We're not first
I'm
responders.
surprised there wasn't more human life lost.
No,
Well, there was no life
I
lost,
was
so.
pretty surprised, yeah.
Thankful there was no life lost.
And,
But it's the cops that have to.
and
go.
with this, they say each year since 2014 is a record year for heat or average temperatures. And so there's no reason not to believe it won't happen again soon, in the next season.
What's
Yeah,
gonna happen to
changes.
the houses that are condemned to have to be knocked down? They're gonna bring dirt in and raise it up so they could do that properly?
Well, you know, the city should know.
Like I said, I know a lot of people get a lot of dirt.
But if you raise it up, you push the water somewhere else.
I
Well,
wanna
you just-
ask.
but they could make it channel
That
wide
night
to
I
begin
found
with, get
two
it all
Push it
separate
across the street.
100-year
Or
flood
across the
Yeah,
plans
like you said, put it where.
that said
where
that
no
sounds, that
natural
Center Road would be
habitat
okay.
fine.
Uh-huh.
But,
You know,
the
that
houses,
Center
you
Road,
gotta
now
give
I
the
haven't,
city
yeah,
a shot.
6 years ago, who remembers the Coyote Creek flooding all the way to the fairgrounds, Monterey Road?
Yeah,
Back in
oh,
the
yeah.
60s, yeah.
So,
Crazy.
is it
And they
possible
wanna do the
that
same
these
thing.
100-year plans are really turning into 20 or 30-year plans? Is there, if it's even worse next year, you know, do you know if there's any, do you guys have any plans to reevaluate your long-term flood plans where you expect it to flood?
That's-
And can we go there and see that next year?
That's a good question because we generally reevaluate as we go along. We have been reevaluating, like I was saying, from Monterey down, and one of the questions is we generally use the 100-year flood because FEMA takes you out of the floodplain, and you're not required to buy insurance if you have, that standard, right? So when we do flood control projects, they have to be to that standard. once they're done to that standard, FEMA comes by, reallocates the standard, and then all those people get out of the flood zone. So that's generally how we operate. So we now are asking ourselves whether we should use a different standard, at least for the time being, until we can convince the Army Corps of Engineers to do a 100-year project. Should we do a 25-year project? So we are looking at that. Because, one of the things that we do is we have public meetings in the neighborhood where we're gonna have the project. A lot of times people don't want flood walls. They don't like them, they're not pretty, but they're effective, they're cheaper, and they can be done much quicker. When people want burns and something other than, because they don't like the flood walls, it puts the project off 2 or 3 years. Because we gotta redesign the project, and we have different hearings, and then we have to do another environmental review. So it depends on how you design the project, how much time it takes to design it. But everything we do includes a lot of public hearings. And I mean, at the neighborhood, not like
That's
some other place.
You could clean a channel out.
In the
Throw it
neighborhood.
up here, and make the fill if it's not contaminated, and save less material there, and widen the channel at the same time. Excavate it here, dump it here, let it dry out.
Sure, that's generally what we do in the
That'd be
project.
the simplest thing.
But you can't even get in there without a
Are there gonna
permit.
be new maps coming out?
Maybe.
Or the maps that we have for a 100-year map? 'Cause like I said, when I saw 2 different maps from 2 different sources say the same thing, I started to relax.
Well,
The
what
Center Road
what
would
you
be
probably
okay.
saw were, like, in other words, right now, there's FEMA maps this is what it is.
There's a floodplain,
Yeah, so what you may have seen were project maps that we projecting such and such.
Yeah.
And then alternatives. If we did this, this would change like this. If we did that, this would change like that.
I haven't seen that.
So generally, so a plan would be,
They tested.
this would be good for 25 years, this would be good for 50, but we want 100, and this is what we need to do. And then once we figure that out, then we go, how can we do that 5 different ways? Then we go to the community and say, you gotta live there. You gotta live there. And there's 5 different ways of doing it. What's your preference?
You heard him say that, would the flood
You've gotta
walls
test
help
it
us
for
with the homeless
permeability.
issue?
If it's gonna hold back the.
Would they protect the creek and restrict access to the creek?
Well, that's part of when we look at it, we look to see what the effects are. It could also be the opposite, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Could allow them to hide.
More of them in there.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it
so it's just a.
So you look at it though,
Uh-huh.
But that's the part where we engage the community, because that means that any of these different alternatives will work engineering wise.
Yeah.
So we don't care in terms of, we can meet the standard, but there's 5 or 10 different ways of doing it. Then we engage the community to figure out which ones, and they'll all have different costs. But we'll figure out which one of those are the most desirable. And like I said, a lot of times the community doesn't want flood walls. Can't blame folks. They don't want flood walls. It's their property. And so it takes more money, and it stretches the project
Put a
out.
rock Avery wall,
But-
a rock Avery wall? You ever seen
Well,
that?
it
Yeah.
depends, like I said,
I mean, something for decoration still does the job.
yeah, we'll look at a lot of alternatives.
So let me ask you then, so on the 19th, Rick, you said that's when that happy holiday.
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, that's when they got that message. So then Mayor Liccardo that same day put out on Nextdoor, warning neighbors along Coyote Creek and the ongoing and necessary release of Anderson Dam water could result in episodes of local flooding for residents near Coyote Creek by Monday evening. The areas at risk lie where the creek channel narrows, William Street Bridge and Eagley Park.
Correct.
Were those the only 2 areas? What about Rock Springs?
No, then my staff, Rachel Gibson on my staff actually, I talked to the mayor personally after that and told him that Rock Springs was the most at risk and was at risk first. Because as soon as that message was put out, me and Director Estremera started getting inundated with calls from William Street
Mhm.
and Nagley, and they started making runs on the Freeland site for sandbags, which, obviously they needed ultimately. Rock Springs was initially at risk. We knew Rock Springs would have the highest level of risk. Subsequent to that, I believe the mayor puts out another message after working in coordination with my staff, that Rock Springs is at risk first.
Before Happy Hollow.
Are they gonna condemn their property now that?
They're at the
can't
same
go?
risk.
Happy
That's
Hollow was
amazing.
already safe.
That's amazing, they would remove the animals the day before and not notify the people.
Somebody was smart.
They
by
got,
knocking on their door.
the animals have better,
City of San Jose, they all have.
they have better emergency
They're
people.
allowed to rebuild when they're gone?
If
Or
somebody
they're gonna
failed-
take dirt in, or just condemn the
Somebody
property?
failed in their capacity to be an
Give
emergency.
them some kind of
Yeah, see, we're not involved in those decisions.
Well, just one.
So let me ask you, I also read there were two sources of funding. There was $22 million that the water district, I read, was sitting on.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be designed for use for improvements 10 years ago to prevent something like this. So there was that, and I also read an article about the Army Corps of Engineers. There was a $7.5 million project. They could have made it a 25 years fix. I think it was that. It was something to that effect. What, could you explain those just in more
Yeah,
detail
yeah,
for us?
well, I think like I mentioned, you know, we don't do 25-year projects because people get pissed off. I paid and then I can't get out of insurance, so we go 100 years. That's not our standard. So you get other people saying, well, can't you just do like a 25-year project? Yeah, right. We don't do 25-year
Might as well
projects.
do the whole thing.
Well, that's the point. You know, you pay your taxes, you want a project that's gonna get you out of the zone. That's just our standard. And like I was saying, if we're looking at, right now, we can't get the Army Corps of Engineers to change their cost-benefit analysis, then we're gonna look and see if a 25-year project, at least as a temporary, you know, some kind of temporary measure towards a 100-year project is doable. Because otherwise, you know, you're just wasting resources. And remember, the $22 million we're talking about, that's not for a project. This guy can tell you what construction
Not very
costs.
much money at all.
That's for what we need to do. So while we try to get the Corps to help us with doing the construction, we do the investigation, we do the design. We've already, you know, we're working on doing the investigation and design right now, from Montague all the way up. So that's the idea.
So that's in
So
the works.
I can add to some. to that.
And the funding, yeah.
So the 22 million that you're talking about, that was 32 million that was initially approved in Clean Safe Creeks. That would go from, I can't think of the original reach, basically up to the 280 area. So I would say Montague.
Yeah, from
to
Montague to 280.
What's the base? So Montague to 280. So that would not have prevented any of the flooding that you saw, even if it was completely constructed. The reason why that 22 million was put on delay is that we are doing the fixes and the retrofits at Anderson Dam. The Anderson Dam outlet, part of the retrofit of the dam itself will also potentially include an outlet pipe that could convey 5,000 CFS. So don't forget, I told you right now the maximum we could convey is 450 CFS. That's more than 10 times more what Anderson Dam
that pipe
could
is-
release. So that would have given us the ability, if we had a 5,000 CFS pipe, then, correct, we would have been able to release enough water to basically be able to keep the dam from overflowing. So that would allow us to basically attenuate floods in the area. So the reason why we delayed that is we said, okay, well, we've got 22 million here. If we put a 5,000 CFS pipe, what does that mean for 100-year flood protection? It changes the projects all the way down. So what we're doing is we're waiting to see, once we have that, and then do the calculations along the creek. In the meantime, when we had Safe Clean Water go back to the voters in 2012, Director Estremera led the effort to make sure that there was steady money put in for the Rock Springs area because the Corps of Engineers denied the fact
Yeah, they
that
didn't
they would
want-
have an interest in this area. Now, what the board acted on basically February 28th of this year is to say that when we go back to Washington, as Director Estremera said, we want to pursue federal funding because it's a complete different structure now since 2000 because we didn't know that Anderson Dam was bad. We didn't know that we would be looking at a 5,000 CFS pipe. All of that is new. So that means that there could be a federal interest in the project all the way from Montague to Tully. So last week we put in a letter of, it's called a letter of intent with the Corps of Engineers that we've asked for them to restudy the area from 280, excuse me, not Montague, 280 up to Tully to see if we can basically find a federal interest. What does that mean? If you were to see the 22 million, in terms of completion of the entire project with the purchase of land and everything, the estimates were about 500 million. just the tiny Rock Springs area was the 7.4 million. People missed that part. So that is the part from Wool Creek to the end of, I guess, to Bevanbrook. That's the 7.4 million. But you can't do a tiny project. You have to do the entire project and can't induce flooding in the area. So yes, it was about 7.4 million for just that area for a 25% project that we would have had to build up. Yes, the Corps of Engineers denied it. Yes, we are continuing to pursue additional paths with the federal government to pull money in this area. I believe that we probably will be able to find a successful, it's called a BCR, benefit cost ratio, that at least has a dollar-to-dollar ratio to make it happen. The reason why the Corps of Engineers denied that is for every dollar that they put in, they get 55 cents back, and that's not an even one-to-one ratio.
But that was 2002.
That was 2002 with the denial, I think 2006.
That's before the dam.
So now that it's 2017, do you think the home values have gone up?
If you were just to look at home values alone, it's not going to matter. But if we have flood attenuation in the dam, and we're using the dam outlet structure to say, well, we can control flows into the creek, then we can potentially lower the cost of the flood protection needs for a 100-year flood protection, because we can control the flows that would come out of the dam.
Yeah, make
So,
a bigger dam.
Unless we have an earthquake,
unless we have what, I'm sorry?
an earthquake, because just
that's
replacing the pipe.
Well, but that,
is the size
all
of-
bets are off.
Like I'm saying, half a billion.
Nobody's
So-
safe,
so
except the
earthquake-
animals.
The earthquake retrofit that has to be done with the dam had nothing to do with flood protection. But now, since we know we have to, the board vote said we've got to redo the dam, that gives us a chance to redo the outlet structure. So if you're going to redo the entire dam, you redo the outlet structure, and you get the best of both worlds. So that's the
Do it
only.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
Are we still in capacity?
I haven't
They
checked.
said a couple of years stall, right?
It's going to take 6 to 9 weeks to reduce
I
it.
think
So
they
it's
have
probably, I haven't. hold on,
couple
let me-
years.
That's not
long.
down more than
I
I
think
think it's
it's
worth to.
I can tell you right now.
Pretty close.
If we still have another storm, 6 inches of rain, it can happen again.
There's rain next week, but not anticipated to be much, but you never know. But the next Wednesday's rain.
So we're still in rainy season, right?
Anderson's
Yeah,
at-
no, that's
April
April,
anyway.
till April.
Anderson's at
Wonder when it gets
92.1%, and it's fully open, and it's been fully open
Yeah.
since after the.
Yeah, that pipe is pretty small.
Friday.
So what are they
We're
doing
down
on the
about
water?
1%?
It's down to 92.1%, and that was as of 9 o'clock this morning.
Oh,
What's
okay.
it
Pretty
doing
slow.
on the water when you try to pull the plug in there? You guys try to put it in the ground? You
Well-
try to put pipes?
No, when
With a looter.
the water flows to the bay, we don't capture that.
Tony, how much, we're down 8% from the spillway. What would it take as far as inches of rain in the watershed behind, what is it, Coyote, or
Coyote, yeah.
Grant Ranch area?
Mm-hmm.
That is the watershed for them? How many inches of rain would it take to take up your capacity of 8%?
I have no idea.
The answer to that.
No idea? No studies?
I have no idea, but
Yeah, our hydrologist.
But the hydrologist might
And
know.
it really depends on how the storm fronts come in, because you have to look at what happened with the atmospheric river. For the last, from January 9th all the way up until this point, yes, we were filling up, but there was no flooding. All the flooding was being hit in South County on Yagas, and the storm fronts were in the Palo Alto area, so we were worried about flooding in that area. The last cycle that came through, the atmospheric river basically hung over the Anderson Dam and over this area.
Yeah.
And so, you didn't see flooding in Palo Alto. You
The
didn't see-
atmospheric river hasn't gone away, it's still there.
Yeah, nothing in Palo Alto.
I think it's
Usually
going
we
to
get-
Seattle right now, but if it kicks down this way,
they're overthrown
That's a
again.
very bad
Yeah,
thing.
it hasn't visited Palo Alto this year, and last year they flooded.
Yeah. So it just
Even
depends-
during the drought, they flooded.
It depends on the cycle of where it is. Just like we've got our weather folks who work in National Weather Service. We try to predict what's going to occur. We try to plan for it.
now back in 1995, Tony, the Guadalupe flooded downtown, like Henry's High Life was.
Right, oh yeah.
flooded
Oh, my
underwater.
office is down there. Went all the way up to like this on my car.
I was walking around with a lantern at 8 o'clock in the night.
Yeah, it
looking
was-
at My business down there was a big big lake.
Yeah, I saw the cars going, the cars were moving on their own.
So this is at San
They were
Pedro
floating.
and Bassett Streets.
But remember, that was before we finished the flood control project there.
Yeah, But it only took 2 or 3 years to get Army Corps of Engineers in there to put in the gabions and side up that whole.
Well, no, it took a lot of years to finish that project. It was, first of all, it was bottled up for a long time, and then we finally finished it. So the last part was what took a very short period of time.
It was still done in the 90s, though, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Can we get some of the Army to do it then? It's government work, government, everything, you put people to work, and the city have.
We're trying to get them to do
We
it.
could get them to do it, you know, as part of the federal.
We're
fund.
trying to get them, you know, the way the Army Corps of Engineer works is they don't give you a check. They either do the work or they contract the work.
Let the CBs get in there and straighten those guys out.
Well,
Those guys,
of course.
they're general.
but they're all too busy in Iraq.
The Army Corps of Engineers is who we have to do it on the Coyote?
Yeah, what they do is their work, whatever portion of work they're gonna do, they don't give you a check. They do the work or they contract the work out.
Louisiana, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
And it still is an iffy situation.
So,
Watch, I'm saying, if the federal government because the Army Engineers is part of the federal government anyway, so therefore, if you can get part of those people to help, and we can have the private sector get involved, you could have kill two birds with one stone if you guys get together, put your head together.
but that's how they do the work.
Tricky, our new president over there, he promised now $1 trillion, and now it's 4.6 trillion.
I wanna thank you. I found this very informative, extremely informative, and all the details.
You know, Jonathan, we can always, especially with Rick, you know, we can always do a tour or something for the associations like you
Yeah.
talked about.
That'd be amazing, yeah.
To do our facilities, you know, go up to Anderson, check out different stuff. You know, we can set something up so you guys can get a better look at
I'm gonna
what
take
we
you up
do,
on
how
that.
we do, you know, what it is that we're looking at.
Thank you.
So, because we generally have open houses at the water treatment, all our facilities, they're open to the public, you know, so, but we also have, public tours. So anybody, we can do something, so you guys can come and see whatever you like. We can come and see Anderson, one or two other facilities, whatever, we'll figure it
I have
out.
I have a question.
We'll
Once
just
that gets
organize
in the
it.
big-
Thank you.
Big developers, the big developers like high tech, cough up a few bucks, everybody put in a pot, and we can protect the whole system, just like your companies, for example, say, well, I'll get my buses and we don't have to worry about traffic, we can just take my people to work. Maybe we could get together with the whole county, high-tech people, okay, you put a few thousand in, I put a few, we all big boys.
They could put a few
Got something
million in.
safe, you know, no, you gotta think of possibilities, okay? If you could provide buses for your company, so you don't have to drive all the cars in downtime for work, okay, we could do something else, we could donate some money for taking care of improvements of the city, just like the mud holes.
Oh,
Mud
definitely
holes.
possible.
Well, hey, everybody.
So you're welcome to do that.
Thank you. I'm
We'll-
gonna
we'll-
take you up on that.
Yeah, we'll go wherever you guys want. We'll take you and we'll check things out.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I want to say,
Thank you for the invitation, Jonathan.
as far as elected officials go, and answering questions and being honest and having a nice dialogue,
Yes.
this is probably the best meeting I've ever
Oh,
been
yeah,
to.
like I said,
I mean,
Yeah,
I
5
mean,
stars, yeah.
yeah.
I'm happy to come back, you
You have
know.
been amazing. Thank you.
I'm happy to come back, whatever, I'll bring staff, whatever you need.
And Rick, we have to thank you too. You had a lot of really great information there, filling in the blanks there as they came up. No one can know everything, right?
Exactly,
But I think Rick's pretty close. So thank you very much.
Pretty
That
close.
means a lot. Andrea, I'm so sorry moving you to May, but I think this was so important for everybody. And thank you for understanding. It means a lot too. So thank you, everyone. And
Thanks again, everybody.
I'm just going to end the meeting there. I don't think I need to go into my presentation.
You died in the airplane crash, I remember.
Thanks again, Jonathan.